Everyone, so in today's video, I'm going to be doing kind of a dive into a lot of cult classic makeup products. I asked you all actually what you thought of when you thought of cult classic makeup products, and most of these products were products that came to mind for you all. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you all a brief history of all of these cult classic makeup products. I'm also going to be giving you my review of these items and whether or not I actually think that they are deserving of their cult status. Really excited to dive into these. So if you enjoy the backstory of these products, if you enjoy all of the demos and swatches as well of these products, definitely make sure to give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. My name's Amanda. If you're also super passionate about makeup, formulations, I would absolutely love to have you back on my channel. So for our first product, I want to start off with one that has a pretty iconic story as well as just a general iconic product that a lot of you know. It is Beny Tint. When a lot of us think of a lip and cheek stain, this is certainly one of the first products that come to mind. This product is actually over 40 years old and first originated. This product though is actually over 40 years old, and Benefit originally started in the 1970s. Jean and Jane Ford actually created the first version of Beny Tint for a dancer that had come into their shop. She wanted something to just make her nipples look a little bit more prominent, give them a little bit of a flush. They actually ended up boiling rose petals as well as carmine to create the very classic rosy Beny Tint shade. But since it first began, I think the allure of this product is that it will give you that just bitten, just make everything pop a little bit kind of effect. What I've noticed with a lot of cult classic beauty products is that there is a little bit of a timeless aspect to them that I think, in general, my makeup products, I love looking for those classic products because I think that everyone can tend to get a lot more wear out of them. Think of it like a wardrobe staple, your classic white t-shirt. Benefit now has a variety of different shades. One of my favorite shades is actually the shade Cha Cha Tint. It's this beautiful tangerine. I love using it in the summer. But I think what makes Beny Tint very unique is that it's one of those lip and cheek stains that can actually truly be used as a lip and cheek stain when certain staining products just aren't as user friendly. They don't give you enough time to blend. Sometimes they're too pigmented. For example, it might look amazing on the lips and really last a long time, but then when you put it on the cheeks, the pigment immediately sticks where you put it. What I love about Beny Tint is not only is it buildable, it truly works to stain the cheeks while also being relatively user-friendly. And I think when you understand the origin story of this literally being used on the body, it makes sense to me. As far as cult classic beauty products, I am a fan of Beny Tint, and this is one that I would recommend to you all. I think the shade is absolutely beautiful going into the spring months. It's a rose shade that is really going to be very pretty on a variety of skin tones. As far as the cult classic product Beny Tint, I do think that it is worth its status. I'm going to try to go in somewhat of a chronological order in this video. But next, let's talk about the quite iconic Clinique Black Honey. I actually used a lot of the images from old Clinique ads as kind of a jumping off point for you all when I was asking about kind of the classic or, cult classic products that you all think of when you think cult classic. For me, Clinique Black Honey is kind of the epitome of cult classic. So it was originally created in 1971 and it initially came out in a glass pot. So it was more of a lip balm that you stuck your finger in and then applied onto the lips. And the name Clinique Black Honey actually came from Clinique's founder Carol Phillips, who, when she was putting her finger into the glossiness of the product, it looked like honey to her. In 1989, just to make it a little bit easier for on-the-go application, Clinique put it in the more classic bullet style applicator. I think part of what makes Clinique Black Honey a product that has stood the test of time is the shade itself. Now, we'll get into the formula as well, but specifically, Clinique Black Honey has this really beautiful raisiny tone to it. It has a beautiful plum look, but also what I have kind of found personally to make this shade different than the typical plum lip tint is there's a little bit this kind of red chocolate note that I think is what kind of makes this a little bit more universally flattering. And not only that, I actually think it makes it pretty unique. I've done a lot of videos on Clinique Black Honey, the shade, the formulas, the gloss, and the original formula. And still for me, I think that the shade is very, very difficult to exactly do for the fun of makeup. I think that there is something really fun about looking at this very dark shade and then it going onto the lips and creating something that does feel very everyday. It isn't as vampy as it looks, you know what I mean? But also there is the almost lipstick formula. For me, it does feel more in line with a glossy lipstick rather than like a lip gloss in a stick kind of formula that are becoming pretty popular right now. Makeup that is completely universally flattering, I think is a little bit, I think that's stretching it a little bit, but I will say that I have seen this shade look beautiful on a variety of skin tones. Now, when we're talking about the shade within this kind of formula, I don't think that it necessarily is going to look incredible on a variety of skin types. And what I mean by that, in a nutshell, is that this isn't the most forgiving lip color or formula when you're dealing with very dry lips. If you have a lot of crackling, a deeper kind of plummy shade is just usually not going to be the most flattering. And that's just kind of the name of the game. And that's not even necessarily a knock on Clinique Black Honey as a product whatsoever. However, I will say, and I've mentioned this before, that the e.l.f. Sheer Slick Lipstick in the shade Black Cherry, incredibly similar product to Clinique Black Honey. And I think that if you want something that's going to smooth over your lip lines or crackles in the lips a little bit more, I would say go with the e.l.f. Sheer Slick. However, keeping in mind that this is not a super glossy formula, it does feel like a true satin lipstick. So if you enjoy the emollients, the glossiness that Clinique Black Honey has, or that kind of comfort that it has on the lips, I would still go with the original. Is Black Honey deserving of its cult classic status? I think that it is. I do think that it's a very unique product. Next up, a product I'm very excited to talk about is Este Lauder Double Wear, a product that truly for me, when I thought of more high-end makeup, since I was a kid, I always thought of Este Lauder Double Wear. I also immediately thought of Clinique as well because my mom would take me to the Clinique counter with her. Like that's like one of my first experiences that I had with makeup is she would go and see her favorite salesperson at the Clinique counter, and yeah, she would pick up her makeup there. Estee Lauder Double Wear, this is actually one of the newer items to me as far as these cult classic products. I've tried a ton of cult classic makeup products over the course of my makeup wearing journey, but this is one that I only started to get to know within the last year. This actually was released in 1997. Very telling when you go and look at this formula. I'm actually wearing it today. I'm wearing a lot of the makeup I'm talking about today on my face, but when you look at the finish, everything about the foundation screams 90s to me. It is more of a matte foundation. It has a really pretty medium coverage that can be built. So for me, that definitely screams velvety matte 90s supermodel kind of makeup. In 2005, Estee Lauder also expanded the shade range. So I think that part of the reason why products like the Studio Fix fluid from MAC as well as the Este Lauder Double Wear. They have been so utilized by makeup artists. They're just more shades. More of their clients could actually wear the makeup. I think part of the reason too that this foundation has just gotten along with folks for a very long time is that it is, I mean, it's called the Stay in Place makeup. It is a long wear formula. They call it a 15-hour wear, and I don't think that that's far off. I'm wearing the shade 1N0 today, and I think the big caveat that I have with this foundation and whether or not I could recommend it to you is that you have to know what you're getting into with the product. This is a velvety matte foundation, and if you like that look, I think that this is definitely one of the better products on the market to get you that. Especially if you don't like the feel of makeup on your skin, there is a good chance you're going to get along with this. If you really like your makeup to last all day, you don't want it to feel like a lot of product on the skin, and you do prefer, again, a little bit more of a velvety look to your skin, I definitely think this would be one of my top recommendations. I actually did my friend's makeup for her wedding, and this was the foundation that I picked for her because she enjoys more of a matte finish. It lasted all night. It looked really beautiful on her, and it photographs really well too, which I think is why this foundation tends to be the product that I also see over and over again in a lot of wedding makeup looks. So that being said, for my dry skin, this is not immediately the first foundation that I would go to. I prepped my skin pretty well today, actually, with the new Ilia face base product, or like the liquid, which, by the way, I'll leave it linked down below, as well as all the products that I'm talking about today. But I gotta tell you, that product has really been blowing my mind as of recent. It actually made this product pretty workable on my skin. I've talked about this before, but I think certainly dry skin people can wear matte makeup and oily skin people can wear more dewy makeup. It's just about finessing formulas. So what I would say here with the Estee Lauder Double Wear, if you have more dry skin, really make sure you're prepping your skin well. But that being said, as I've continued to use this product, when I really take the time to get a lot of moisture on my skin, this will last all day on my skin. I'll absolutely be pulling this out in the summer, especially when I want to make sure that I'm getting a very velveteen, weightless look with my makeup. So is the Estee Lauder Double Wear worthy of its cult status? I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, it certainly is. Next up, we're gonna talk about one of the first luxury makeup purchases that I ever made. And it is Giorgio Armani, the Luminous Silk Foundation. One of the products that if you read an Allure magazine within the last 20 years, you have definitely probably heard of this product. And that's initially where I heard about it so many years ago. It actually released in 2000. And the formula itself was made to emulate the look of silk on the skin. Pretty recently, Giorgio Armani did tweak the formula and they added some new shades as well. This is the shade 2, but the shade 1.5, which is a newer shade, is actually better for me. I think a lot of these products, like the Double Wear or the Luminous Silk, a lot of these products specifically became popular from makeup artists using them. So again, when I'm flipping through Allure magazine and I see that a makeup artist is using this product on like Emma Watson or something, I'm like, you know, maybe this is a product I should be trying out. But let's talk about this formula itself. You know, when I initially tried Luminous Silk, for me, it felt a little bit too glowy and it had less coverage overall than what I was expecting. But when I revisited it a few years later, I truly started to understand the formula itself and truly started to fall in love with it. So it is more of a liquidy texture. It goes onto the skin. It does have this kind of softening effect. I do understand why they call it Luminous Silk, like that silky texture. When silk hits light, you know, it has this general smoothness, but you're also getting a bit of a glow and light reflection quality to the actual finish of the product. I think sometimes it's difficult to find a glowier makeup product that also lasts on the skin and also has that bit of blur. And I think probably the reason that this did so well, in my opinion at least, is that it has that balance. So I think if you want something with more coverage, I would certainly lead you towards something like the Este Lauder Double Wear. And I do think that in general, this kind of product is going to last longer on the skin. However, I think Luminous Silk is a very beautiful product, and I do think that it is worth the cult status. For me, it has stood the test of time, and there are some cult favorite products, like probably the next one we'll talk about, that I don't think are worth the status, especially considering the kind of innovations in makeup that we have right now. So let's go ahead and get into one of those items. In 2009, Chanel came out with the Solay Tan de Chanel. Now this is the new reformulated one that I purchased because I felt like I needed to give the newer formula a try. They did reformulate it and added this darker shade, but initially it was just one shade. Chanel Tan de Chanel. This was one of those items that I would open up a magazine and every single makeup artist was using it. The Solay Tan de Chanel, it doesn't have a huge story behind it necessarily, but when I was doing some research, I actually found out that Coco Chanel was part of the kind of trend of making a suntanned look a little bit more appealing. A lot of folks started to emulate that kind of sun-kissed glow after Chanel started doing it. And obviously, like, beauty norms, I think, slowly change over time. But I gotta tell you that this formula from Chanel, the original, I was not a fan of, and this newer formulated version, I am also not a fan of, unfortunately. Now, the original Solay Tan de Chanel, it was quite orange on me. I definitely think that more light to medium skin tones would probably have a better time getting more use out of that product, but certainly it was not one that got along with my skin. And on top of that, not only would I look kind of orange when I was putting it on, the blend was just never 100%. And as I started my YouTube channel, I always felt like, am I going crazy? Like, this is a product that everyone loves. And by the way, if you love it, I'm happy that you found something that you love. I really try not to paint in broad strokes on my channel about a product being completely bad 100%. But I think what is important to note is that if you have a similar skin type to me and you tend to like products similar to me, I wonder if you're going to have trouble with it too. It never wanted to quite stick to my skin. And then when they reformulated it, it actually felt like it got worse. I love this shade. I think they could have made more shades. I don't know why they only released two. But the Tan Deep Bronze, I really enjoy this shade. I enjoy that it's a little bit cooler toned, but on the skin, it doesn't really give you much time to blend. I do feel like this is kind of a deceiving product because it does have this kind of creamy look to it. You think that it's going to apply really creamily onto the skin, but you actually don't have a ton of time to blend. And it does feel like this wants to skip and kind of pick up on itself when it actually goes down onto the skin. And I do think that some skin types get along with this formula a little bit better than my skin does. If you have dry skin with some textural issues, or you find that some products just don't want to stick to your skin, I would not recommend this one. I know I'm not alone in that issue with some products, but I will say I'm interested in hearing if you have oily skin, if this product applies a little bit differently on you. My skin, however, does not enjoy it. I think between that, the shade range, and in general, the very hefty price point, I do not think that the Chanel Healthy Glow Bronzing Cream, that's the new name, I do not think that it is worth its cult status. But let me go ahead and recommend another product to you all instead of the Chanel bronzer. Look at that pan, guys. I would personally go with the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer. This is the bronzer that I'm wearing on my skin today. The blend is beautiful. It has a really nice satin finish, so I think it's going to get along with more skin types. And it's also buildable. It isn't a fussy formula that doesn't want to stick where you place it. There are also more shades of the formula as well. In general, I think it's going to get along with more skin types, more skin textures, more skin tones. It is an absolutely fantastic product. One of my favorite products that Charlotte Tilbury has ever come out with. But speaking of Charlotte Tilbury, the last product that I want to do a dive into today is the ever so iconic Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat in Pillow Talk. The Lip Cheat in Pillow Talk actually released back in 2013. This is actually a product that is 10 years old at this point, which kind of blows my mind, especially thinking that 2013 was 10 years ago. That kind of weirds me out a little bit. But nevertheless, this product from Charlotte Tilbury became a makeup artist favorite because of the shade. This kind of nude rose shade definitely gives a your lips but better look. In a similar vein to Clinique Black Honey, certain shades of products are what I think ultimately make them become cult classics. Another product I think of in that vein is Chanel Boy. Happy to talk about this in another deep dive into cult classics if you guys want to see that. But I think that Pillow Talk from Charlotte Tilbury definitely became a cult classic for that reason as well. Charlotte Tilbury kind of doubled down on this shade in particular and created the matching lipstick in the Matte Revolution formula in 2018. Soon after, it felt like every celebrity had the duo in their makeup bag, and it felt like at one point it was kind of an inescapable product. But Charlotte Tilbury now has 3 different Pillow Talk shades for a variety of skin tones, which I really love, and honestly, it just makes sense. A shade like this is never going to be universally flattering. I can see that more so being the case with something like Clinique Black Honey, but not for Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. So it only really made sense that they expanded the shade line. The formula itself of the Lip Cheat though, which is the, again, original, it has enough of a glide and it also wears really well. So it's one of those lip liners that when you apply it, you don't need to worry about it fading immediately or getting outside of the lip lines. Like, it is a product that is more long wearing. However, it isn't overly crackly or dry on the lips either. I think it also is pretty easy to control in that way. So I think a lot of celebrity makeup artists enjoyed using it for subtle lip contouring. I personally always liked it because it was a kind of my lips but better shade. And for me, it feels like a lip liner that goes with almost like every lip product that I have. So it's very versatile and I can understand why so many makeup artists would consistently go back to it. But is this product worth its cult status? Now that there are 3 different versions, I do think that it is worth its cult classic status. So this was my first video on cult classic makeup products. If you enjoyed it, definitely make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you'd like to see me do more of these videos, please leave the products that you'd like me to talk about. Other products that I thought about were the It Cosmetics CC Cream, again, Chanel Boy. A lot of you had mentioned some MAC products. I'm actually kind of interested in talking about like the Fenty Gloss Bombs because I consider those to be a cult classic now. But overall, thank you guys so much for being here. I will leave all of the products I talked about today down below and I will see you in my next one.